onto our back, but start with your knees bent and then roll back onto your back. So with your knees bent and your feet flat, hands are by your side, and we're just gonna start by moving our pelvis a little bit. Rock your pelvis back so you feel the imprint, and then rock your pelvis forward so you feel that arch form the low back. Rocking back and forward. Now rock back into the imprint and hold the imprinted spine. Pull the belly in, breath up high in the rib cage, and then lift your hips up to the ceiling. As you roll down, try to roll down slow, one vertebrae down at a time until you rest. Take a deep breath in, exhale, lifting the hips. Hold the hips up high, take a deep breath, press the toes to the floor, and then rolling back down. We'll do one more. Lift the hips up. Really focus on the back of the thighs here, pressing harder down into the floor, press the toes of the mat, press your arms down into the floor, and then slowly rolling back down into your rest. With both knees together, drop them to one side, and then we'll bring both knees up and over to the other side. We're gonna move on to the hamstring stretches next, a little bit deeper stretching. You're gonna grab onto your ring or your strap. If you don't have any of those, you can just hold onto your leg with your hands. Take one leg to the ceiling and pull it towards you for a stretch. You can keep the lower leg bent if that feels better, but to deepen the stretch, lengthen that lower leg to straight. Lengthen the back of the neck, your shoulders are shrugging down. Hold on to that leg and drop it out to the side, but trying to keep your hips squared off facing the ceiling. Remember, your abs are still tight and pulled in, lengthening the back of the neck. Take another deep breath up high in the rib cage. When you bring the leg back up, you're gonna cross over to the other side, but it's just a small crossover, not too big. Think about bringing that foot towards the opposite shoulder. Keep the leg straight, lengthen the back of the neck, still breathing. And then you can bring it right back to center. And then we're gonna switch legs. Same thing on the other side. So remember the leg that's on the floor, you can keep it bent if you need to, otherwise deepen the stretch and lengthen it down to straight. Pull the lifted leg in a little deeper. Still focus on a deep breath up high in the rib cage. Hold on to that leg and drop it out to the side. Hopefully feel the inner thigh stretch. As you take the deep breath up high in the ribs, you want to feel the rib cage expanding, your abs still tight and pulled in. Then bring the leg up and cross over the center line. Keeping the hip on the floor, lengthen the back of the neck. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. And then you can bring the leg right back to center. So take the foot off the ring or the strap and just put both feet to the floor, and both knees are gonna be bent. Your arms are straight up to the ceiling. And if you have a ball or a ring, you're gonna squeeze it. Otherwise, just reach those arms straight if you don't have a ball or ring. We're only moving the shoulder blades. So pull the shoulder blades together and then feel the shoulder blades spread apart, pulling together and apart. And you want to think about that apart motion, the shoulder blades pulling away from your spine as hard as possible. And we're going to do that too when we do things like plank. You don't want the shoulder blades to pull together when you're in a plank. So we're going to focus on that pull apart, but still squeezing the ring as tight as you can, or squeezing the ball. Pull the belly in. Do one more. Feel the shoulder blades spread apart, and then shoulder blades pull together. Now slide the shoulders down, away from the ears as hard as you can. We're gonna do some ab curls. Still squeeze that ring or ball if you have it. Curl up, look into the belly, and then rest head and shoulders back down to the floor. Curl up, looking into the belly, and then resting head and shoulders down. You wanna keep those legs tight and strong. Press the toes to the floor, pull the belly in. Squeeze that ball or ring a little tighter. You're gonna do one more. Exhale, curling up, and then resting right back down. Now keep head and shoulders down, still squeezing that ball or ring. You're gonna lead with the tailbone. Lift the hips up and hold the hips up into that bridge again. So as you roll down your spine, the hips go down, but then the head and shoulders come back up and you look into the belly. Rest down head and shoulders, lift up the hips, rolling your spine down, lifting up head and shoulders. So as your upper spine is on the floor, the lower spine is lifted, and as the lower spine is on the floor, the upper spine is lifted. Hopefully that makes sense. Pressing the toes down, pulling the belly in, squeeze that ball ring a little tighter, keep those arms strong. After you rest down your hips, just keep your head down. We are gonna move into the toe tap. So with this one, your legs lift to tabletop. You can make this easier on yourself and just do alternating one leg at a time. But if you can, do both legs glued together. Lowering the feet towards the floor, then lift back up. What you have to focus here on this one is the lumbar spine and the pelvis. We're trying not to change the position of the pelvis or the low back as the legs lower. And you'll notice that your abs have to work so much harder to support that movement in the legs so that the low back does not move. Lower and lift, squeeze the legs together. Let's do 2 more. Last one's always gonna be the hardest. You're gonna lower those feet to the floor and just hold it. If you're doing single leg, you can just lower one down and hold, and then you're gonna switch. If you have that ring, squeeze a little tighter, pull the belly in, and then you're gonna rest both feet to the floor. Now, if you have the ring or ball, you're gonna put it between your ankles. Otherwise, you can just keep the legs together because we're gonna go into our 100. So with the 100, if you have little weights, you could put those in your hands too if you wanted to work your arms a little harder. You're gonna reach your arms long, legs start off at tabletop. Remember, they can stay at tabletop. If you can, curl up, look into the belly, lengthen those legs out long and straight and start pumping the arms. Inhaling for 5 counts, exhaling for 5. Remember, on every exhale, you're forcing every ounce of air out of the lungs. Try to get those legs longer, straighter, and lower, but you can bring them higher for easier or back into tabletop. You can also keep head and shoulders down. You do not have to stay curled up. Try to reach for longer arms, longer legs. Inhaling 5 counts, exhaling 5 counts. If you have that ball or ring, squeeze it a little tighter. Always pulling up on the pelvic floor. And when you're inhaling for the 5, watch your abdomen stay tight and pulled in so it doesn't lift with the inhale. Keep those arms pumping for 2 more 10 counts. Now after this last 10 count, hold everything still, curl up higher, reach longer, and then you can rest back down. Now get rid of the ball or ring. One leg is going to be on the floor, it's long and straight. Opposite leg is to the ceiling. If this bothers the low back, you can keep that leg on the floor a little bent. But try to keep both legs straight. The leg that's reaching to the ceiling is going to start a circle. Inhale as you start the circle, exhale as you finish. Now you can draw small little controlled circles on the ceiling, or you can make this a really big circle. You just got to pay attention to your pelvis, try and keep both hip bones squared off facing the ceiling. Imagine you're in that tight belt around your waist, pulling the belly in a little deeper. Inhale as you start, exhale as you finish. And with that leg up, you're going to flex both feet now and go in the opposite direction. So same leg, circle in the opposite direction. Lengthening the back of the neck, pressing the shoulders down, reaching longer arms. Remember, every exhale, you're forcing the air out of the lungs. Do 1 more circle in this direction. And when that leg is at the ceiling, hold it up there, grab on and pull the leg in for a stretch. We're going to do the same stretch on the other leg. So reach to the toes and then start your circle. Remember, the lower leg can be bent if you don't want to keep it straight. Always think of that long line through your spine, lengthening the back of the neck so the chin does get a little closer to your chest. We'll do 1 more circle in this direction, and then you're going to go around the opposite direction. But try to flex both feet when you're going around this direction. Reach out to the heel. Think longer legs, not moving the pelvis as you're rolling through the hip. To your last circle, bring the leg to the ceiling, keep it long and straight, grab on and pull it in for the deeper stretch. Now both knees are bent with feet flat on the floor. We're going for another set of the bridging, but then we're going to add the leg kicks. So with the feet flat, heels are lined over your sit bones, rock back so you feel the imprint, and then lift the hips up. Hold your hips up high, kick one leg to the ceiling, lower down, kick the other leg to the ceiling, and lower down. Keep alternating the leg kicks. And when you stretch that leg to the ceiling, really think about lengthening, giving yourself enough time to fully extend it to straight and reach the toes up. Try to get the hips a little higher, press the toes to the floor. Just do 1 more on each side. And then you can finally roll your spine all the way back down until you rest. So if you have your foam roller, you can do the next set with the foam roller underneath your feet. Otherwise, just keep your feet flat on the floor. I'm gonna do this one with the roller. Still heels lined up with your sit bones. Lift your hips up and hold the hips up high. Take a deep breath. So this one, you're gonna kick one leg to the ceiling, either one. Keep that leg long and straight. Lower down halfway, lift back up. Lower down and lift. You're trying to keep the pelvis level too. Try to get those hips up a little higher. Do one more. Then you're gonna rest the foot down to the floor or your roller, and then do the same thing on the other side. Lower and lift. Try to reach that leg longer, like you're reaching out of the hip. Press the arms to the floor. Do your last lower and lift. And then when you're ready, you're gonna take a deep breath, both feet on the floor, and roll your spine all the way back down into your rest. Now keep your feet flat onto the mat or your roller if you have it. This is an extra challenge for those that have the roller. You're gonna lift the hips up and hold it. If you have your feet flat on the floor, you can still do this lift and just hold. And focus on the back of the thighs, pulling up on the pelvic floor. If you have a roller, you're gonna roll to the heels and then to the arches. Heels, then arches. Just do that a couple more times. And then when you're ready, roll your spine all the way back down until you rest. So now just forget about the roller if you have it. You can leave it there or kick it away. But bring the legs up to tabletop. We're going into our ab series. So curl up, look into the belly, hug one knee to your chest, lengthen the opposite leg away, and then switch. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Try not to grip into your neck. So this whole ab series, we go through 5 different exercises. You can keep the head and shoulders down the whole time if you don't want to curl up. But if you can, curl up a little bit higher. You want that feeling pulling bottom ribs to your hips. Now glue both legs together, keep them together. As the legs extend forward, arms reach back, and then you come back into a little ball. You open everything up, and then you come back to center. So as the arms reach back, your upper spine is trying to stay curled up. The legs are lengthening forward out in front of you, but squeezing together. Focus on pulling up on the pelvic floor, pulling the belly in. Remember, you're cinching that waistline too, like you're tightening that belt a little more. Do 2 more. Deep breath as you open. Exhale, pull back in. Now, after you bring yourself back into a little ball, we're going into our scissor kicks. So one leg to the ceiling, one leg falls to the floor, and then you switch. And use your arms to pull the leg towards you too to get that deep hamstring stretch. You can make it deeper by reaching out to the heels. Remember, you're not gripping into the neck. The shoulders are shrugging down. You could keep your head down if you don't want to stay curled up. Good. The 4th exercise of our 5 ab series, we're going both straight legs to the ceiling. Head and shoulders get to rest on the floor, and your hands are by your side. Pay attention to where your low back is in this start position because you want to maintain it as the legs lower and lift. So if you want, focus on neutral. That's where you keep your hip bones and pubic bone on the same plane and the legs lower and lift without moving the pelvis or the low back. If you prefer imprint, you can keep that low back glued to the floor and lower and lift the legs. Either one is fine. Squeeze the inner thighs together, lengthen the back of the neck, pulling the belly in. Just do 2 more. Lower and lift, longer, straighter legs. After you bring those legs to the ceiling, bend them to tabletop. Glue the legs together for now. Fingers are laced together behind your head. Curl up, look into the belly, and then you're going to twist towards the bed leg. And then switch. Keeping elbows wide and shoulders shrugging down out of the ears. As you're twisting, then bringing the air out of the lungs. Try to curl up a little bit higher too if you can. Give yourself enough time to fully extend that leg outward straight. Do 1 more twist on each side. And then when you come back to center, lengthen your legs down onto the floor. Your arms are reaching way back behind you. And just lift the rib cage. Stretching through the abdomen. Now for the next one, we're going to do our roll-ups. You can use the band between your arms and pull apart for this one. You can use little weights in your hands. You could squeeze your ring or your ball. But now we're going to bring head and shoulders off the floor, come all the way up over your straight legs. If that was not a smooth, fluid roll up, you could do this modified version where you roll down just before you feel like you're gonna fall, you come back up and stretch out over the legs. So you could just do seated, fall back halfway, and then come up and stretch forward over the legs. But if you can, go all the way down to the floor, and then bring your head and shoulders up. Try not to grip into your neck. Remember, your abs are tight and pulled in. Think about squeezing the inner thighs together. Always pulling up on the pelvic floor. Stretch a little forward too, if you can. Reaching out over those legs, stacking up, and then rolling down. The next time you come up, we're gonna stay up. So do one more stretch up over the legs. Then you're gonna stack your spine up to straight and stay up here. So this one, if you have the ball or weights, you can still hold it and squeeze or pull apart depending on what you're doing with the arms. You're gonna twist your spine and then back to center, twist to the other side and back to center. Try to grow taller, pull the belly in, and focus on the legs. They're squeezing together, and your ankles should be with each other the whole time. You don't want them rubbing as you're twisting because the movement is in your waist and not supposed to be happening in your hips. Next time you face forward over the legs, you're gonna hold it. And we're gonna keep those arms still strong, working hard, lengthen your spine. One leg is gonna lift off the floor for little pulses. So up and down motion. Pull the belly in deeper. Remember, you're still pulling up on the pelvic floor. Try not to recline back. So you're always pulling your rib cage forward and higher to the ceiling. You're gonna switch legs, same thing on the other side. Try not to lean back. Make those arms work harder if you're squeezing or pulling apart. Take one more deep breath, and then you can drop the leg, let the legs relax for a moment, especially if you're gripping in your hip flexors, you can let them relax. We're gonna fall back halfway and hang out here like you're sitting in a lounge chair. The arms are gonna move. You're gonna draw in big circles while you're squeezing that ball or ring or pulling the band apart, or you just do the reaching arms. Either one is fine. Pull the belly in deeper. Now you're gonna bring the legs over, hands over your lap and go in the opposite direction, that circle. So while you're in this reclining position, you want to try to relax your thighs. Let the legs kind of hang out, be lazy, and use your abs to hold you here. I know a lot of times we grip so much in our hip flexors that when we tip back, the legs start to lift. You can bring the legs together, arms, the arms over the legs, take a deep breath, and come all the way back up to seated. So keep your ball or your ring with you. We don't want the band, you don't need the band for this one. We're gonna roll onto our side. When you're on your side, we're going to the leg series. So the legs are forward slightly, your spine is lined up with the back edge of the mat. If you have that ring, press it into the floor, push the elbow into the floor and lift up out of the shoulder. The top leg is gonna lift and lower. Point as you lift, flex as you lower. So while you're doing these side leg series here, imagine you're wearing that tight belt around your waist. You don't wanna sink down into that shoulder and drop your ribs to the floor. You gotta stay lifted and try to stay straight. If you know you could work harder, bring those legs back so now you're in a straight line. Makes it a little bit harder on your balance. Keep pressing into that ring. Pull the belly in deeper. Keep trying to narrow the waistline. Now hold the leg up at hip height and just draw small circles. Still breathing. Roll the shoulders down and back. Keep pushing down to that elbow. Keep that lower leg working hard too. Now you're going to flex the foot and go in the opposite direction, reaching out through the heel. Focus on the deep breath up high in the rib cage. Now keep the foot flexed. You're going to swing it forward out in front of you, and then as you swing the leg back, you point the foot. Flex on the way forward, point as you go back. Keep pushing the floor away from the elbow. Keep lifting the rib cage higher to the ceiling, lengthening your spine. As you go forward with that leg, stay strong and steady in the upper body so you're not swaying back. And then when the leg goes back behind you, don't let yourself sway forward. Do one more forward kick, last kick back, and then bring the legs together. Now you're gonna lay all the way down onto your side. If your legs are forward slightly, bring them back. You could use that lower arm for neck support, and you can keep that ring in front of you if you want, but the legs are gonna lift and lower. If you want to challenge your balance a little more, you'll just take that top arm over your hip and focus on lifting the legs. So remember, you could press into the ball of the ring, or you could just keep the hand over the hip. Pull the belly in, roll the shoulders down out of the ears. Now lift both legs and hold them up. Just the top leg moves up and down. Don't let the lower leg fall to the floor though. Keep it up. Still trying to narrow the waistline. Reach for longer legs too, pointing the feet. Think about your upper back too. You're not gripping into the neck. The shoulders are shrugging down. Do one more. And then you can finally relax. And we're gonna go to the other side, so bring your ring or your ball with you if you use it. Remember, the start position would be legs forward at a slight angle, but your spine is lined up with the back edge. If you know you want to challenge your balance, draw those legs back so you're in a straight line down the center. Push the floor away through the elbow, narrow the waistline, and we're going to start by lifting and lowering the top leg. If you have that ring or ball, press it hard into the floor. Still pulling the belly in. As that leg lifts, you don't want to drop the waistline and then lift up when the leg falls. We're trying not to move the upper body from the start position. Focus on the breath up high in the rib cage. Now we're moving on to circles. So get that leg at hip height, reach through the toes and draw small circles. Keep pushing the floor away with that lower arm. Stay lifted up out of the shoulders, and shoulders are slid down the back, away from the ears. Make sure your lower leg is still a working leg. Press harder into that ball or ring if you have it. You're going to flex the foot and go in the opposite direction, reaching for a longer leg. Now keep the foot flexed. Hold it at hip height, swing forward out in front of you, and then kicking back. Flex on the forward kick, point the foot as you go back. Stay strong and steady in the upper body, not moving. Pull the belly in deeper. Keep that lower leg tight and strong. Still trying to narrow the waistline. Do one more forward kick. Last kick back, and then draw the legs together. Make sure your legs are back now. If they were forward, you want to be down one long line down the center of your mat or lined up with the back edge. But press into that ball or ring. If you have it, you could put your hand over the hip, but now both legs are going to lift and lower. Try not to grip into your neck and just let your head rest on the lower arm. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Hold the belly in. Exhale on every lift. Point the feet, reach through the toes. Draw the navel in deeper. Now you're going to lift the legs and hold it. Stay balanced on that lower hip. The top leg is going to lift and lower. Don't let the lower leg fall to the floor. Still breathing. Do one more, lift and lower. And then you can rest back down. Now let's come up to seated. When you sit, you're going to face towards this long edge of your mat. We're going to do a couple mermaids and then we'll go into side bends. So when you're facing towards this long edge of your mat, one hand is on the floor and you're going to stretch away from your feet. So stretching away from the legs. And then when you come back up, stretch out over the legs. Do it again. Deep breath. Remember, shoulders are down. Coming back up and stretch. When you come back to seated, so we're back to our start position. We're going to stay on this side and go right into side bends on this side. So you're going to have one hand at the top of your mat, feet at the bottom of your mat. The leg that is on top, it is forward and front of the lower leg. So you can do this same stretch with one knee on the floor. If you need to make this easier, you could keep an elbow on the floor too if you want. Otherwise, we're going to lift up, straight arms, straight legs, and go right into a side bend stretch. You do have to balance on this one, and then you lower back down. That's good. Remember, you can keep that lower leg on the floor if you need it for support. Otherwise, get up, lengthen both legs long and straight, and then lower down. Now, I'm going to give you an extra challenge. You can keep going with those if you want. An extra challenge would be add more of a twist. So when you get up, you have to push this arm away from you, even though the hand stays in the same spot. You lift up, you push away, and you come into more of a triangle position, and then you come back to your side bend, and then you come all the way back down. We'll do it again, only if you want to go for the harder. Side bend stretch, add the twist, coming back to your side bend stretch, and then all the way back down. Good, you can do another one if you wanted to on that side. It's a little tricky. Let's go to the other side. Start off with mermaid. Starting off easy. Remember, you could always keep going with mermaids if you didn't want to move into the side bends. But stretching over, and then coming up and stretching out over the legs. Come up again. Deep breath. And stretch. Now, when you're ready, put your hand back to the top of your mat. Bring your feet to the bottom edge. Remember, the leg that's on top, it crosses in front. And you can keep that lower knee on the floor for this one and just stretch out the top leg. That's your easier version. Otherwise, and you can do this on your elbow too. You don't have to stay on the hand if this bothers the wrist. Come up into that side bend stretch, and then lowering back down. Lifting up and stretch. Remember, you can keep going with those. You could go back to the one with the knee on the floor. You could even go back to mermaid if you wanted to. We're gonna go into the side bend stretch. If you can, add the twist, reaching under the waist, coming back to your side bend stretch, and then lowering down to the floor. Lifting up. That's good. Add that twist, reaching under your waist, coming back, and lower. I think we only did 2 of those on the other side, but if you want to get another one in, you can. And we're gonna come back to seated. So when you're sitting on your mat, your legs are straight, but they're about as wide as your mat. We're gonna do spine stretch forward and then saw. Saw, we just need more space on them, so hopefully you won't hit any furniture or anything. Legs are straight out in front of you, arms are straight, sit up tall. And on this one, your upper spine stretches forward, but don't grip up in your neck. Keep the shoulders slid down out of the ears, and then you stack your spine back up to straight. You can squeeze your ring if you wanted to on this one, or hold weights in your hands. Hopefully you're focused on the breath. As you stretch your upper spine forward, force air out of the lungs, and then stack back up and fill the rib cage. Exhale forward. Inhale, growing tall. We're really just focusing on stretching your thoracic spine, but you do have to think about those legs staying long and straight, pulling the belly in and pulling up on the pelvic floor. Just do one more, stretching the thoracic spine, rounding forward, and then stacking back up. Now for saw, the legs go wider, if you can get them wider, and your arms go out to the side. And some might hit things, so you could do a little fist if you want. You could do bent, shorter arms, bent arms if you want. We're gonna twist, and you're gonna reach down towards that opposite foot, stack your spine up to straight while you're still twisted, and then face back to front. So twist as far as you can first, then round down, reaching towards the opposite foot. Stay in the rotation as you stack up, and then come back to center. Now, the slower you move for this one, it is easier to keep your form, and really try to stretch further to make it harder. Now, your arms are strong, always reaching away from center, trying to make the longest arms and longest legs possible. Pull the belly in deeper, reach out to the heels, flexing the feet, stack back up, rotate back to center, twist first, round down, stack up while you're still twisted, and then face back to center. This will be our last one. You just want to make sure you even up your set, reaching towards the opposite foot you started with, and then we're back to center. Bring the legs together. Make sure you have plenty of room on your mat behind you, because we're going to do rolling like a ball. If you have a ball, you can work those inner thighs harder by squeezing the ball between your knees. Hands are on your shins, and you're going to lift your feet off the floor. You could just stay here and hold this if you don't want to roll. But if you can, roll back to your shoulders and then come right back up to balance, not letting the feet touch the floor. Inhale as you roll back, exhale up. Keep that roundness in your spine too. So if you go back to the floor and you flatten out, your ball won't have a smooth roll to it. Inhale as you roll back, exhale up. If you can, let go of the legs so your arms are reaching forward, but still squeeze that ball if you have it, or still squeeze the legs together. Pull the belly in deeper. We'll do one more. When you come back up to balance, stay here balancing and move your hands, to the back of the legs, and you're gonna lift those legs up to straight, and we're just gonna hold teaser. So holding those legs long and straight. It's fine if you wanna keep them bent, but we're trying to balance on your hips. So our low back should not be on the floor. So some all the way down. You squeeze that ball a little tighter or just squeeze the legs together. If you can, let go of the legs, but hold them up. Still breathing. If you have that ball, squeeze it tighter. Pull the belly in deeper. And then you can finally rest back down. We're going to end up keeping the ball if you have it, but move it between the ankles. Because we're going to go into corkscrew. If you don't have the ball, just keep the legs together. When you roll back on your back, your legs lengthen to the ceiling. You can do this with pointed feet or flex. Either one's fine. I do flex because it just stretches out the back legs a little more. Remember to keep those legs together and squeeze the ball. Corkscrew, start off easy. Keep your hips on the floor and just draw a circle on the ceiling. Stop at center and then draw that circle in the opposite direction. So you just alternate the direction of the circle. Don't think figure eight. It's a circle and then reverse. So you could keep going with your hips on the floor, drawing circles with the legs and taking breaks if you need it. If you could work harder, you pick your hips up at the top of the circle, then draw a bigger circle as you roll to the back of the hips, and then you come all the way back to center, and then do that same circle but in the opposite direction. That gets a little bit harder adding the hip lift. I'm not going to go into the full corkscrew just yet because we haven't even done our rollover yet, and the Joseph Pilates version of corkscrew had rollover in it. Squeezing that ball tighter. Do one more. And then when you're back to center, you can bend your knees and give yourself a little break. Keep the ball if you have it. Squeeze the legs together if you don't, but keep those inner thighs working hard, squeezing the ball, or just squeeze the legs together. Find your neutral with those legs at tabletop position. You want to keep hip bones and pubic bone on the same plane. Pull the belly in. Tighten your abs. The legs are going to extend out to straight and then come back in. Try not to move the pelvis or the low back. Just extending the legs to straight, squeezing that ball tighter, and then back in. If you don't have the ball, just keep those legs together. Legs lengthen and come back in. Hopefully you're working your arms, press them downward to the mat, pull the shoulder blades together. The next time you lengthen those legs out to straight, try to get them to an angle as low as you can without feeling stress in the low back, and where you can hold those legs out. Now do little beats. Little beats, you're either opening, closing the legs, or you're squeezing that ball tighter, like little pulse squeezes. Still press the back of the shoulders to the floor, pull the belly in, and then you can bring it back in and take a little break. So get rid of the ball if you have it. End up on this side. We're gonna do a little hip stretch. So cross one leg over to where your ankle is crossed over the opposite knee, and then pull it into your chest. Take your deep breaths. Try not to grip into your neck. I want you to keep this ankle on top of the knee as you rest the foot to the floor. So we're still sitting with our legs crossed, same leg on top, and I want you to just press that leg away from you. So the bent leg, well, I should say the top leg, just push it away. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So when you cross over, we'll hug it in first. Shoulders shrug down, still breathing. And then when you rest that foot to the floor, press that top leg away to open up the hip a little. All right, so at the beginning, well, I guess it's the fifth exercise of our ab series was crisscross. And then number 3, I'm pretty sure, was scissor kicks. So we're going to combine crisscross with scissor kicks. You don't want to do the combination because it is a lot harder. You could just do another round of scissor kicks, or you could just do the crisscross. So here was crisscross, and then here was scissor kicks. So as you can imagine, combining them together, one leg is straight, twist towards it, and then you switch, twist into the other side, and then switching. So remember, you could just take a break here and hang out. You could do crisscross with one bent leg coming in, but try to get those legs longer and straighter. Now to work harder, try to reach out through the heels. So you're reaching out through flexed feet. Try to curl up higher, pull the belly in deeper. Do one more on each side, and then you can bring it right back to the ceiling. So you can hug your legs in if you need a little break. The next one is going to be really confusing. We call helicopter. Your hands are by your side, and you're going to start in that scissor kick position. I'm not going to make it as confusing first. We'll start off easy. The legs circle away from each other like you're tracing a giant circle, and then you go in the opposite direction. So you're just going around. Basically, your right leg will be doing a semicircle on the right, the left leg is doing a semicircle on the left. Rolling through the hips. If you need to make that smaller, you could just make it a smaller circle on the ceiling. It doesn't have to be giant, big circle. We're trying to strengthen those hips, rolling around. To make this even more confusing and challenging on your coordination, we do a scissor kick in between. So we'd be curled up, pull the leg in, scissor, scissor, and then you circle those legs around, pull it in, do scissor, scissor, circle those legs down and around. This is where I usually lose people, and they say, oh, forget it. So do either one you can do. You could do scissors or just do the helicopter motion the whole time if you want. If you can, try to combine them together, doing a scissor kick in between, and then doing the helicopter. It's just a good one to strengthen your abs, your hips, your quads, and get those hamstring stretches in there as well. When you've had enough of that, we're gonna finish with both feet flat on the floor, and then you can take a little break. Keep your knees together, and then drop your knees to one side and stretch. We're gonna bring the knees up and over to the other side. Now we are gonna roll all the way onto your belly. So when you're on your belly, we're working into swan to strengthen our back. Take breaks if you need it, because I'm gonna run through a whole series here. You're gonna have your hands just rested on the floor, shoulders slid down out of the ears, and use your back to lift the rib cage up. The hands can help support if you need them on the floor, but if you can, lift them up, and then lower back down. As you're lifting the rib cage, you still want that feeling of lifting your abdomen away from the floor too. So you're not pushing the belly down into the floor. Still trying to narrow the waistline as you're lifting and lowering the ribs. Still taking a deep breath up high in the rib cage. Now to work a little bit harder, reach your arms long next to your ears. Keep the legs on the floor, don't try to lift the legs, but you're gonna lift the rib cage with those arms long and straight, and then you lower back down. If that's too much stress on the shoulders or your low back, you can just keep those arms bent, tucked by your side the whole time, and then lower down. So keeping the feet on the floor, lift the rib cage, and then lower. We'll do two more. And your last lift up. Now tuck your arms back down by your side, because now we're going up for our full swan. Still keeping the legs on the floor, don't try to lift them. You're gonna lift the rib cage using your back, and then hands on the floor, you push the floor away. As you come up, you're trying to lift as far as that low back will let you, but don't lock your elbows and shrug your shoulders up. You want a long neck and shoulders down and back. Your abs are still tight and pulled in. Initiate the movement using your back, and then you push up using the arms. And then lower down. We'll do two more. And lower. Now the last one, I'm gonna give you an extra challenge with it. You could just hold the swan. So as you're up here, you could just stay here and hold, but if you can, take one arm and reach it back towards your feet and twist your neck and look out over that hand. Bring the hand back to center and do the same thing on the other side. Twisting, reaching, and then you come back to center and then lower yourself all the way back down to the floor. We're gonna go into swimming next. So swimming, reach those arms long, but you could skip the upper body movement if you don't wanna do this. Try to lift everything off the floor first and then start swimming the arms and legs. So up and down motion with the arms, up and down motion with the legs, and reach for long limbs. Still pull the belly in. Remember, you could just bring those arms up by your side or use your hands underneath your forehead if you didn't want to move the upper body. Now hold everything lifted and stay here if you can. You can take a break if you need it, but now the legs are going to do little beats. While you're lifted, the legs are now opening and closing. Lift the rib cage higher, pull the belly in deeper, lift those legs higher, and then you can finally take a little break. Now pick up your hips, sit back to your heels, go into a little child's pose stretch, rounding your spine. We're going into thigh stretch next. So when you stand tall on your knees, you want your knees right underneath your hips. You can use the weights in your hands, you can use the band and pull apart, you can use the ring or the ball and squeeze it. If you have nothing, you can just keep your hands by your side. You want still knees underneath your hips, straight line from shoulders to the knees, and you're gonna hinge back from the knees. If this bothers the knees, you could add extra cushion, you could double up your mat, you could skip the thigh stretch and just hold here, squeezing the ring or ball. But fall back on the inhale, pull forward on the exhale. For the feet, you could do curled under feet or feet flat. Either one is fine. Remember, you're not gripping into the neck, the shoulders are slid down, your abs are tight and pulled in, squeezing the glutes and pulling up on the pelvic floor. Now, if you can, fall back into that thigh stretch and hold it. Fall back, hold here, really think about those inner thighs like you're trying to squeeze the legs closer together. Your arms are gonna lift and lower. Still breathing, shoulders shrug down. Feel those quads working hard as they're being stretched. You have 2 more. When you lower the arms, return back to vertical, and then you can get rid of the ring or the ball. So if you have your roller, you can use that on this next one. You would just put your hands on the roller at the top of your mat. If this puts extra stress on your wrists, you could come down to the floor. You could do elbows for this one too if you wanted to. But we're gonna curl the toes under and hopefully lift the knees. You can keep your knees on the floor too if you didn't want to lift the knees. But remember at the beginning of the class, we did the shoulder blades together, shoulder blades apart. Same thing here, shoulder blades together, shoulder blades apart. And you want to hold that apart. Hold those shoulder blades apart away from your spine as hard as you can. Now holding those knees off the floor, we're going to alternate a leg lift. So one leg lifts up, lower down, do the same on the other side. So as that one leg is lifting, the opposite leg stays in the start position. You want that feeling of reaching back of the head to the ceiling as well, so you don't sink face to the floor or drop chin to your chest. You want to keep that long line through your spine. Still feel the shoulder blades spread apart. Try to get that leg up as high as the hip. Do one more lift on each leg. And then you can finally take a little break and sit back to your heels into a child's pose. If you have your roller, you can use it on the next one too. We're going to come into a full plank and do leg pull front. So this one too can be done on your elbows on the floor, palms flat on the mat, or on your roller. Lift up to straight legs, feel those shoulder blades spread apart away from your spine, and then one leg lifts, lower down, lift the other leg, and lower down. You're pulling the belly in, your shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Now lift one leg and just hold it. Hold that leg up, still breathe. Really focus on our balance here too, a little opposites. And then switch, same thing on the other side. Holding. And then when you're ready, you can rest down. Go back into that child's pose, stretch, and lengthen. We're gonna do that same thing in reverse. So leg pull, we're facing the ceiling now. So sit on your mat. You could do this with the roller too. I'm not a fan of it because it hurts my wrists even more. So we're gonna end up having your hands on the floor behind you. You could do fingers pointing in or out, however feels better on the wrist. If you wanna use your roller, you can lift up under your roller. The legs are long and straight. Feel free to keep your arm, I hate the roller for that one, but you can use it if you want. You're gonna lift up and hold it. So stay here in this plank. If you hate this plank, go ahead and put your hips back to the floor. But if you can, lift one leg up, lower down, lift the other leg up, and lower down. If this ever bothers your knees, you could do a little secret bend in the knees, or you could just go ahead and put your hips back to the floor and do the same leg lift. Pull the belly in. Do one more on each side. Then you're gonna go ahead, rest your hips, fold forward over the legs, and reach to your toes. We're going to do an exercise called hip twist. So it's kind of a combination of corkscrew that we did on our back with our legs up in the air and teaser. We already did teaser earlier, balancing, holding the ball between the ankles. So hip twist, scoot forward just so that you have enough room on your mat behind you to recline. I'm going to get that roller out of there because we don't need the roller. You can come down into your elbows for easier, or sit with straight arms. Your arms are going to want to be wide. Lift the legs up to bend, tabletop legs, and this is your easier version with the bent legs. Your easiest is elbows, so bent arms, bent legs for the easiest. You're going to draw a little circle. Think about drawing that circle with your knees, and then drawing that circle in the opposite direction. So that's how it mimics the corkscrew, is you alternate direction of your circle. If you can work harder, lengthen those legs to straight and draw those circles. Hold the belly in. Remember, you can stay on your elbows, but don't shrug your shoulders up into your ears. You always want to keep those shoulders down. Pull the belly in deeper. Squeeze the legs together. Do one more in each direction if you can. You can always stop early. And then when you're ready, you can rest back down. We're going to come all the way down onto your back, and we're going to do some modified versions of our teaser before we go into rollover. I know that some people like to use the roller or the ball for roll over, so make sure you keep your ball or roller near you. With your feet flat on the floor, walk your feet down the mat. So you have a greater distance between your hips and your heels, but still draw those legs together so they're close with each other. Your arms are reaching to the ceiling. You could use your ring if you wanted to, or weights in your hands. As your spine curls up, you're bringing head and shoulders up, and one leg, either one, extends outward to straight. And then as you roll back down, you put that foot right back to the mat with your legs squeezing together. Then we go to the other side. So alternate as the spine comes up, legs are together. So you notice your knees will still be with each other. Your thighs are still parallel. So curl up, extend one leg, squeeze those knees together, and then rolling right back down. Hopefully you're still breathing. And when you rest right down. Now you can keep going with those if you want, alternating the single leg. Others are working on the tabletop legs, moving a little bit up higher, harder. So as the spine comes up, both legs now extend to straight. And as your spine rolls back down, you come right back to the tabletop legs. Take a deep breath in, and then come all the way back up. Exhale and hold at the top for a deep breath. And then rolling right back down to the floor. We'll do one more. So remember those tabletop legs. Oh, had a hard time getting up on that one. And then you can roll back down to the floor. And we're gonna try to do 3 of the hardest version. Starting with legs straight down onto the floor. So if you wanted to, come back to the tabletop legs. Arms are straight to the ceiling. As the head and shoulders come up, so do both legs. You lift up, you hold at the top for the deep breath, and then you roll all the way back down, reaching those arms up. Remember, you can start with tabletop legs, and then lift up and extend the legs to straight, and then roll back down. If you can, we're gonna do one more of the full with straight legs lifting as the spine comes up. Head, shoulders, lift those legs up, hold for a deep breath at the top, and then rolling all the way back down into your rest. Now reach those arms way back overhead, lift the rib cage to the ceiling, and just stretch. Give yourself a breather here. We're gonna go into rollover. Rollover is our last hard exercise. Just make sure you slide down your mat. So if you have a wall behind you or furniture, you're not gonna kick it. Your legs are gonna be straight to the ceiling. I know here some people like that ball and roller underneath your hips. You could bridge up, put the ball and roller underneath there, rest your hips on it and start the legs up. But if you can, use your abs to bring yourself into that rollover and then slowly roll back down to the floor to rest. You could just stay here and hang out for a stretch too, holding those legs in. If you can, use your abs to bring those legs overhead. I know it's hard to do this with a computer, but you do not want to look left or right as you're coming up into this rollover. Try to keep your neck in neutral so you're looking at your feet or your legs the whole time. I'll do one more if you can. Take a deep breath, and then slowly rolling back down to the floor. So relax the legs, you can rest them back down. We're gonna cross the legs a little differently on this one. I know we cross an ankle over knee. This time I want you to take the knee all the way over the opposite knee. So I call it sitting like a lady with your legs crossed. You're gonna drop, since we have right leg on top, drop the legs to the left. If you have left leg on top, drop your legs to the right. And really twist your spine. Try to look out over the shoulder the opposite direction of your legs. Try to twist a little further if you can. And then when you come back to center, we'll cross the legs in the opposite direction. Let them fall to the floor, and then twist, look out over your shoulder. Take another deep breath. And then you can bring the legs right back to center. Uncross the legs, hug your knees into your chest, and then you're gonna rock yourself up to seated. Just sit however you're comfortable. Lengthen your spine, grow tall, pull the belly in, and your shoulders are gonna go up and down. Inhale, shoulders up, exhale, shoulders down. Do one more. Now keep the shoulders down out of the ears. Try to keep them down all day, out of the ears, and reach your arms up to the ceiling, stretching, lengthening, grab onto one wrist and pull it to the opposite side. Still with the shoulders slid down. Grab onto the other wrist and stretch to the opposite direction. Hopefully you're still pulling the belly in and pulling up on the pelvic floor. You can come right back to center and then relax. Good, if you need to do a couple neck rolls, you can. But after that, you guys are all done.